Okay, so right now, one of the most ambitious industrial transformations on the entire planet is underway. And we're talking about India's massive push to become a global manufacturing powerhouse by 2030. Seriously, the scale of this ambition, it's just staggering.
And look, this isn't just a bunch of talk. The Indian government is putting its money where its mouth is. We're talking serious capital. $26 billion. That's the financial engine that's designed to completely overhaul the country's entire industrial landscape.
Now, this isn't some scattergun approach, just throwing money at the wall to see what sticks. No, this investment is laser-focused on 14 key sectors. The bet is crystal clear, to position India as the world's next great factory. And we're not just talking about basic assembly here, but for really high-value products. Everything from electronics to green energy.
So you might be asking, how are they actually doing it? Well, the core mechanism is something called the Production Linked Incentive, or PLI scheme for short. And honestly, it's a beautifully simple concept. The more you manufacture in India and the more you sell, the more financial incentives you get straight from the government. It's a direct reward for ramping up domestic production. Simple as that.
All right, so that's the plan. But the big question is it actually working? Let's dive into our first section and see how this $26 billion bet is already starting to pay off.
And let's be clear, these aren't just pie-in-the-sky projections. This is what's already happened. We're looking at realized investments of over 1.76 lakh crore. That's more than 21 billion US dollars, with 806 projects already up and running. And maybe most importantly, this has already generated over 1.2 million jobs. So yeah, the plan is definitely in motion and it's delivering real results.
Okay, so now let's dig into the first major pillar of this whole strategy. It's all about transforming India from the software giant we all know into a full-blown hardware superpower.
And if you want a flagship success story for the PLI scheme, look no further than electronics manufacturing. The ambition here is just massive. The sector is projected to more than triple, rocketing from $44 billion today to an absolutely staggering $150 billion by 2030.
This kind of growth has had a huge real-world impact. It's actually propelled India to become the second largest mobile phone manufacturer on the entire planet. Think about that. You've got global giants like Samsung and Apple's big contract manufacturers, Foxconn, Wistron, Pegatron. They are all heavily invested and are building phones right there, right now. But that leads to the critical question, right? Assembling phones is one thing, but can India move up the value chain? Can it manufacture the core components, the actual brains behind all this modern technology?
Well, India's answer lies right here. With a massive scheme worth nearly 76,000 crore, we're talking about 9 billion US dollars, India is making a really serious push into semiconductors. The goal? To grow this absolutely vital industry from 9 billion to over $60 billion. This is all about securing its own tech supply chain and, crucially, reducing its dependence on other countries for these critical chips.
Okay, but this manufacturing boom isn't just about phones and chips. It's also directly tied into the global green energy transition. So for our next section, let's explore how India is powering a greener tomorrow. Just let this number sink in for a second. 38 times. In just the last 10 years, India's solar capacity has increased a mind-boggling 38 times. It's jumped from under 3 gigawatts to over 108 gigawatts. That is a crystal clear signal of the country's massive commitment to renewables.
And it's not just solar. The National Green Hydrogen Mission is just as ambitious. The goals here are huge. They're targeting 5 million metric tons of production capacity, developing the renewable energy to power it, creating over 600,000 jobs, and slashing fossil fuel imports. This is really a two-for-one deal, achieving energy independence while also tackling climate change head-on.
So this whole transformation is also about security. It's about self-reliance. Let's look at how this manufacturing boom is being used to forge strategic independence in other really critical sectors.
Just take defense, for example. Over the past decade, India's defense exports have surged, wait for it, 34 times. That is a fundamental shift. It marks the country's transition from being one of the world's biggest importers of military hardware to becoming a pretty significant exporter. And we see almost the exact same turnaround in pharmaceuticals. Just a few years ago, India was a net importer of bulk drugs. Those are the key active ingredients in medicines, and they were often relying heavily on China. But today, it's completely flipped. India is now a net exporter.
securing its own supply of essential medicines. That right there is strategic autonomy in action.
Okay, so when you put all these pieces together, electronics, green energy, defense, pharma, it really starts to reveal a much bigger picture. So for our final section, let's zoom out and really think about the global impact of India's manufacturing renaissance.
So if you're going to take away just 3 things from all this, let it be these. First, this whole initiative is on track to create a massive, massive number of jobs. Second, we are literally witnessing the rise of a new export powerhouse. And third, India is positioning itself as a totally essential new link in the global supply chain. It's becoming a key player in that China Plus One strategy that you hear so much about.
And when I say massive job creation, I really mean it. The collective potential across all these sectors, it's estimated to be somewhere between 15 and 20 million new direct jobs by 2030. Just think about that, the societal impact of that kind of number. It would be absolutely transformative.
So look, this strategy is clear. The investment is definitely there, and the early results are looking really promising. The plan is undeniably in motion. So the real question isn't if the world will feel the impact, it's how soon the rest of the world will truly feel the impact of this manufacturing giant finally awakening.